Hey everyone, this is TommyNaysh,
It's Giga Gaming.
and this is the Guest podcast where we talk about gaming, esports, streaming, and technology. This is episode 7, and we have a special guest today. His name is Performance Coach Carl, and we're going to be talking with him in the esports section to get to know a little bit more about what mental performance coaches have to do with the esports scene.
Yeah, it's a very good talk. You guys are gonna really like it.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, First off, we're gonna start with the gaming news as always, and just today, we got some hot news, including CyberPunk being pushed back another 21 days. What do you think about this, Giga?
Good thing. Personally, I think it's a good thing. I wasn't gonna buy the game day one, so maybe my that's a little different than someone who was. But I mean, the delay for a game, I'd rather the game come out better because they
Yeah,
delayed it again. I know it's unfortunate for people that are really excited, but you should be excited that they're taking the time and the care to make sure that it comes out as polished as they can do, instead of uh, being mad they delayed your potential favorite game.
I was actually looking at the Twitter status that CyberPunk posted, and some of the comments on there are ridiculous.
Dude, they're
There are
vicious.
people there are people who are so pissed off that they're canceling their pre-orders. They're saying, "Screw CD Project Red, I'm never touching this game." It's like, "Come on, dude. They're literally trying to make this game better, and if they don't think it's ready, just let it like it's 21 days. Sure, there's a possibility they might even delay it again, but they want to ensure smoothness on all platforms. It's literally what they said in their tweet, and I could see there being problems with like the first generation Xbox Ones or PS4s not being able to run this game as smoothly. So that's probably what they're working on.
Yeah, I saw a guy tweet. Oh my god, it was funny. He was like, "I booked a whole week off work for this, and you delayed it." And it's like, holy shit, dude! Like, it.
I get it. I
You're a
get
little
it.
too into
I
it if you're taking time off work. Like, come on now, you get your priorities straight. Like, that's a little crazy. It's a little much, in my opinion.
you say that, and I took off 2 days for Cold War when it comes out. So
That's because you're a loser.
my priorities, I guess, aren't straight in your mind.
I know.
But no, I understand. Like in a way, people are very excited for this game, especially like you said, this guy's taking a week off of work just so he can play it, and just be like, hey, can you cancel this? Like, I don't want to take push it forward 2 weeks or something like that. But it's still coming out. It's gonna be polished, and it's going to be what it was meant to be. Just give them these extra 3 weeks to ensure that everything runs smoothly. You'll have yourself a good Cyberpunk 2077. Is
It-
there a chance that there could be something bigger happening and they're having like real issues with one of the platforms or something like that where the smoothness just isn't good at all? I think I've even heard rumors that um, the Cyberpunk game is bricking some systems for like a certain system, whether that be Xbox One or PS4. Um,
well, how would you have proof of this? Like, you haven't played it,
yeah,
so like, come on.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just like game testers or something coming out and saying something, but either way, just wait till it comes out. You'll enjoy it.
It's 21 days. Like,
Yeah,
three
it's
weeks.
not.
It's not the end of the world. You can definitely wait. I mean, they said, and I quote, the biggest challenge for us right now is shipping the game on current gen, next gen, and PC all at the same time. So they definitely want to ensure that the different levels of performance in those consoles can still match a proper gameplay experience, and that's a tough goal, man. Like, that's a lot of
Yeah,
different platforms to try and make sure your game runs good on. It's a lot of different hardware you got to make sure it's compatible and works right. So, I mean, they said countless times that they're sorry and they feel bad about it, but you know, they think it's a better thing to do than otherwise putting out a game that might have some pretty bad bugs. And 21 days isn't like revolutionary for an amount of time. It's not like they can revamp the game, but they've already said that the game's gold. It's passed the certification tests. It is now. By the way, it wouldn't pass certification tests if it was bricking consoles, so that they couldn't officially go gold like that, because to get your certification, you have to have a game that actually works, that doesn't
okay.
bug and break stuff.
Yeah,
Uh, so yeah, obviously some games have gotten certified and have still had those bugs because they just weren't detected until launch. But
You,
Yeah,
you really got to think about it only because Cyberpunk's releasing on 9 different consoles and platforms. It's coming on the PS4, the PS4 Pro, the Xbox One, the Xbox One X, the Series X and S, the PS4 or PS5. It's coming out on PC and Stadia. So I mean,
in the
it,
digital
it,
edition of PS4
it's so much to handle, and just to ensure
or
quality
PS5, sorry.
among all of those platforms,
A
I
lot of
mean,
work.
it's a little bit more work than they anticipated.
Well,
This game has been in development for 8 years now. I mean, I was 18 when the when Cyberpunk first got announced.
just think how close they were to done. Like they only announced the PS5 and the Xbox and stuff like not that long ago, in comparison to how long the game's been being developed. So it's like,
That's
man,
true.
we got all this development time, and now we got to do all this extra work for all this new stuff coming out.
Hmm.
So yeah, but moving on from that, we have an Xbox in-depth look. Now I didn't watch the video, but I see you have the notes here about it. So they got a new dashboard, dynamic themes, and with different colors. Is that big news?
Yeah, so it's just like how the PS4 theme in the background is dynamic and you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
change it all. One of the main things that they announced in this video, they're like, "Hey, look, we got dynamic themes and you can change the colors. It comes with all these different colors on launch." And everyone's like, "Oh shit, dynamic themes on the Xbox? Like
Wow,
that's crazy. That's
crazy.
unheard of." But they were saying that the whole main Xbox theme doesn't look too different from where it does on the Xbox One X right now, or just the Xbox One. But they did go deeper into some video game improvements. So they hopped on Gears 5 first, and they showed that the texture and frame rates are up to what they used to be on Xbox One was like just like the normal graphical settings, and on the Series X they're able to bump everything up to like ultra 4K at 60 frames per second. And they were kind of showcasing that a little bit.
Yeah.
They also moved into some quick resume, so you got to see that in action just from them switching games very quickly. Um, Something I didn't actually know about was the Xbox Series X Auto HDR feature. So they hopped into Subnautica and they were showing that the HDR effect in use for Subnautica really made like the colors pop out a lot more and just make the game look better in
Is
general.
this real HDR or is this like contrast boosting nonsense?
I think that's what it is. I don't think they really went into too much detail. They just said, "Oh, here's our auto HDR." So games that like don't have HDR, here it is, basically.
Because there's different HDR standards and it matters most on your display. Like,
Hmm.
like a HDR 600 display is, it can show proper HDR up to 600 peak brightness, and then there's HDR 1000 and different certifications for it. It's more complicated than just HDR is on now or HDR isn't
Yeah,
on. So there's a lot of different stuff to look at it too. So I'm
it's
curious to
just
see
the
that.
simulated HDR, I guess you can say. I don't know. Um, that being said, when they hopped on to Subnautica, one thing I noticed, I don't know if it's just the game's fault if this actually happens in Subnautica, but they go underwater and the coral and stuff like isn't there, and then just like 2 seconds later it pops up and it's there, and it's like I know Giga would be very angry at this portion of the video just
I can't
because
believe they
they
published that,
move
to be
forward a
honest.
little bit and there's like more pop-ins flying in everywhere. I was like, how did this pass? Like, how did they decide to go through with
Yeah.
Subnautica?
Who looked at the video and was like, "Oh yeah, that's good. Post that
Yeah.
now. That's good. That's
I
done."
really do want you to look at that after this podcast and tell me what you think of that part. So
Yes.
that they also showed off the new controller with some improved ergonomics. Fits the hands better, I guess, with some textured grips on the back of them, and a new D-pad that's similar to the Elite Control Series 2. So it's the standard directional D-pad, but then it also has the what is it? The diagonal buttons as well on the D-pad, so you're able to get more use out of it. And then on the new controller itself, there's the share button. So if you push the share button, you take a screenshot, and if you hold the share button, it takes a clip of your gameplay. And this is a lot better.
I must have an
Than
Xbox controller. I mean, look at this. This got a button right here that says share on it. That's crazy.
Yeah, It's a lot better than the Xbox One controller in a sense that if you wanted to take a clip on the Xbox One, you either needed to say like Cortana and record that, or you had to like double tap the dashboard button real quick and then hit X or whatever, and it would record a clip for you. But it would take you out of the game for a moment. Um, Now you just push the button on your controller, it automatically goes to your phone, which is linked up to your Xbox account, and then you can go on your phone and tweet it out or send it however socially you want
I
to.
think they fixed this a long time ago, but I know there was a thing that if people were gaming, and let's say you're playing COD, for example, where there's open lobby with open mics, and let's say you don't have a headset on, you're just playing through the TV, there was like ways that you could be like, people would be shouting like Xbox turn off, and it would like turn your Xbox off and all this
Yeah,
stuff, and like I'm sure that's been long fixed, but I do remember that being a thing, and it was kind of funny.
yeah. I got the day one edition of the Xbox One, and it came with the Connect. And I I was recently cleaning out my parents' attic, and I found the Connect there, and that thing was massive. I didn't realize how big that the Connect actually is. It would take up probably the entire top of my monitor here.
That's huge.
Um,
What the hell?
but it was just really cool how it had that Cortana functionality to it.
Yeah, so you got to either show off Xbox Store, Game Pass. What's new with the store?
Yeah, so the store, it is still its own application, so you have to launch the store, but it's a lot faster and it's a lot more seamless than it used to be. Store looks nice in my opinion, and the Game Pass as well. They also updated that, so uh, they're adding EA Play to this Game Pass. So for $25 a month, you're getting the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which I mean, it may seem like a lot of money, and it kind of is $25 a month, but you're getting access to all these games. You're getting Xbox Live, and you're getting it on the PC as well. So I mean,
I think I don't know how much demand there is, and I'm going from the perspective of most gamers. Maybe this is a bad generalization. Maybe I'm wrong, but let's say, at least for me, I usually play Siege, and there's another game I want to play. It might be once every couple of months. I might spend $100 every 6 months, let's say, on games, because
mhm.
I just play my one game. I like it. A couple other games I play, but most of the games I've played have been out for a long time. $25 a month to access a bunch of games that you'll probably never play seems pretty steep. Because when you think, man, like 6 months, that's a lot of money I just spent. Like I could buy like almost, you could literally buy like two brand new games for that much money you just spent, and you're probably not getting those two brand new games on Game Pass right away. Oh, no, that's a bit of a hard sell for me personally when you can just spend, what is it, 60 $70 US on the game or for Xbox Live for a year, something like that.
Yes, I mean it's worth it in ways that you have access to play just an unrealistic amount of games. So you can hop over to whatever the hell you want to. And I mean, there are some pretty new games on there. So, I mean, when the Series X comes out, and it is on Xbox One right now, the Game Pass has Doom Eternal. I mean, that's a pretty new game. And I think if you were to buy it right now, it's probably, I don't know if it's still full price, but it's probably at least
DLC just came
$40.
out, so it's definitely a little high up.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just one of the games where I mean, even if you pay for 1 month, I mean, you're kind of getting your $25 worth just with Doom Eternal right there.
It reminds me a little of, how most people don't use satellite TV anymore. But when you had to get a plan for a satellite TV, if you wanted to get the good packages and the good shows, normally you had to buy way too much.
Hmm.
So to me, that's almost like what Game Pass is in a sense. It's like, oh yeah, there's these handful of good games, which is great, but I'm still spending a lot on a handful of good games, and there's so much stuff I don't care about. Like,
Yeah.
and it's the same with satellite TV. You're like, oh yeah, there's these seven good stations that I like to watch, and then there's 800 of them I don't care about at all.
Yeah. I understand. I understand both points. It's just, do you want to not own video games and have access to a huge collection of games that you can play on demand, Or would you rather, I mean, there's people who do both, or would you rather just purchase your own games, have the license to play this game whenever the hell you want, and you don't need a specific $25 a month membership?
I guess people just make their own decision, but it's not for me. I don't.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's okay if you do.
It's definitely, I don't know if it's geared towards the younger generation, maybe, where they don't have access to buy all these games. And I mean, for $25 a month, I mean, especially if you have mom or dad paying for it, hey, there's all these games here, leave us alone, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, on the bright side, at least that Seagate expansion card looks really good. Really tiny.
Yeah, I honestly didn't expect it to be that small, but um, I watched the video and then I saw an image of the Seagate expansion card being plugged into the back of the Xbox Series X. Yeah, it's literally probably 4 inches tall, and then just
Oh,
plugs right
it
in.
wouldn't even be four. Four, I think four is like standard M.2 size. This would be probably closer to three.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, it fits in the palm of your hand. You can just plug it in the back. There you go, an extra terabyte.
Now, I didn't see them plug it in. When you plug it in, does it stick out at all?
So there is a little, probably like a quarter of an inch or something like that that sticks out, maybe half inch.
So not much. I was worried that if you like plugged it in and you had like 2 inches sticking out, that like
Yeah.
I can definitely see people like the Xbox falls or someone moves it and hits it, and now I've just busted my expandable storage and ruined the slot or ruined the M.2 stick, and it's like
So
holy shit, that would really suck.
they actually don't really show it being plugged in. The guy's just like, here it is, and then you only see the front of the Xbox, and he's like, I'm plugging it in, plugs it in, and then more games pop up on the screen because I had games preloaded onto it.
So how fast did the games pop up, or did they cut it?
Honestly, it was like he plugged it in, and then within like 2 to 3 seconds, whatever was on that storage popped up on the screen.
That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Well, that's
But,
good.
but yep, I mean, Xbox is coming out in a few days, 2 weeks from now. Actually comes out few days, 2 weeks, same thing. Comes out in 2 weeks on November 10th, and I will be there, I think, at midnight to grab it. So pretty excited for that. I'll let you guys know how it
You're
is.
such a Microsoft simp. It's crazy.
I got, hey man, I'm just a
I,
simp
s-
for gaming.
I say on Google Chrome that's installed on Windows 10. Anyways, moving on. Assassin's Creed Netflix original series has been announced. Very
Also
big news.
today.
Yeah. Netflix will be developing an Assassin's Creed live action series. Ubisoft's Jason Altman and Daniel Krynick, maybe, will serve as the executive producers. Netflix states that the series will be an epic, genre bending live action adaptation. And the agreement also covers the ability to create an animated series, but there's no news on if they're gonna do an animated series or not. But they have the license and stuff to.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I think that's pretty big news. There's a lot of games that are getting turned into movies and TV shows, and if they're done right, like I like the Witcher series, and I know that there's books and whatnot too, but The Witcher became very popular based off the game, and yeah, I really enjoyed that series. I think that was pretty good. So
I
if
mean, they even have a Netflix. I think it's like going to be an anime for CyberPunk. That's going to be setting to release in 2022. So I mean, a Cyberpunk 2077 anime series is in the works as well.
how many delays do you think they'll have? 6, 7?
Probably a couple, two, three.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any news on like who the main actors or actresses or anything is, but
No,
they're definitely going to go through Ezio's story, and they say that they're very excited because there's so many different worlds and potential for different scenes and different things they can do because the Assassin's Creed universe is ginormous.
I feel like each season can be a new story, and it's set in a different world. And one of the things I think it's hilarious that this announcement got released today because me and my friends, all we've been talking about recently was Assassin's Creed, and
I playing it a lot.
yeah, I've been playing Black Flag. I'm trying to get through there, and I mean, I want to be ready for Valhalla. It's kind of impossible at this point because I still got many other Assassin's Creeds that I need to play. Um, but I started playing Black Flag. Figured I'd finish that and then move on from there. Um, yeah, I'm honestly looking forward to the Netflix original series of Assassin's Creed. We'll see what that has. See if it's a bop or a flop.
Well, on some disappointing news, Watch Dogs Legion 4K ray tracing. That's great.
Oh baby,
Only 30 FPS, however. A little that.
that honestly upsets me so much. Uh, I could talk about why that upsets me for a long time, but I feel like the industry standard at this point should be 60 frames per second. And if you can't get 4K ray tracing at 60 frames per second, get rid of something so it runs at 60 frames per second.
I prefer the option of like, let's say for example 4K ray tracing. It looks phenomenal. It's like, oh my god, this game, it couldn't look better. It's so good. And you're
Mm-hmm.
like, well, I can live with the nice stable 30 FPS as long as it's stable and consistent. But there should be an option for either 4K ray tracing off 60 or 1080p ray tracing 60 or 1080p no ray tracing 60, whatever they have to do to get stable 60. But I still think that should be an option.
Yeah.
I don't think. I understand game developers wanting to almost make a tech demo when their game comes out because it looks really good. Like this game is phenomenal. Look how much we can push the engine and the PS5 and the Xbox. We can just push these to the absolute limits, and look how nice it is.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to think too, like your consumers, the people that want to buy this game, want at least 60 FPS because 30 now, it just looks bad. It's
It's
so obvious to
unplayable in
tell.
my opinion.
It depends on the game, but
Yeah, I guess. I guess.
like if
Because
I'm
Ghost
playing,
of Tsushima, I don't even notice that it's locked at 30 frames. So I guess I'm a little biased here, but I am waiting to continue Ghost of Tsushima until the PS5 comes out because then I can play it at 60 frames and I'll be in a better place then.
yeah, it's important to note too that even a 2080 Ti equipped PC cannot run Watch Dogs Legion at 4K high settings with RTX enabled at above 60 FPS. It couldn't hit 60. The newer 3000 series Nvidia graphics cards, however, can do over 60 FPS at 4K max settings, ray tracing on, but obviously the new consoles don't have RTX 3000 graphics cards inside them. You're not getting that level of performance out of that APU. Not this generation. Maybe next, but definitely not this generation. Not for Watch Dogs Legions at the very least. Uh,
Yeah.
again, if the 30 FPS is rock solid stable, I think I can live with it. But if it's
Yeah,
like
same,
30
same.
FPS and then it's like dipping to like 25, and if it gets like under 20, it's like, oh, this is like literally unplayable now. Like if you notice it at all, in my opinion, nah, I wouldn't.
There's certain games out there that say like, "Hey, do you want performance mode or do you want?"
Quality mode.
Yes, exactly. And I know Ghost of Tsushima does that. It says, "Do you want a more stable frame rate or do you want the higher textures or the 4K capable thing?" Even Forza Horizon, maybe the new Forza Motorsport did it as well, where they say, "Hey, do you want the higher frames or you want the better quality?" And I think having that option is what's necessary, especially for Legion. They recently announced that Ubisoft frame rates, and it looks like Valhalla is going to be running at 60 frames per second. Legion's going to be 30, but have the 4K and ray tracing. Even like Rainbow Six Siege is going to be 4K at 120 frames per second on the new systems, which also comes into play. Do you have a monitor that supports 4K at 120 hertz? So,
Yeah, you need to have HDMI 2.1, or you're pretty much shit out of luck.
yeah, I recently found that out, and now I'm looking to purchase a new monitor because I want to be able to, get the best out of these systems when I get them, especially with the money I'm paying.
Well, to continue on with disappointing news, deleting your Facebook account will make you lose ownership to your Oculus games. So, yeah, Facebook and Oculus obviously tied closely together. Facebook has two options when you go to either delete or deactivate an account. Those are your two options. The difference is account deactivation is essentially hiding your account. You can't search it, but it still exists. All your data's still there, and you can reactivate it at any time, but no one can message you or see your profile, anything like that. Account deletion, however, deletes all your data permanently and it is unrecoverable. Account deletion will also delete your Oculus profile, meaning that you lose all your digital rights to any of those games that you purchased. So, Picture deleting your PlayStation account or your Xbox account. All those games are just gone now. Like you don't have the account anymore. The whole thing's just gone, removed. The difference with that is there's not really any reason to delete your PlayStation account. You need one to play your PlayStation games. Everyone knows this. This is common knowledge. But you shouldn't need a Facebook account to play Oculus games. Like you're not playing with your Facebook friends.
Yeah.
So like that's it's very disappointing in my mind to have that design oversight flaw.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't really have much to say about that besides the fact that it sucks.
Personally, I would have removed my Facebook account long ago if it wasn't for that there's still people on there that I talk to, like on Messenger and whatever.
Yeah.
But I have my account locked down as much as you can. Like I don't even. I think if you search me, like you don't even see any information on me, just my profile picture and my name. I think. I yeah, everyone's on that pretty much on Facebook, like billions of people. I don't really platform that much. More of a Twitter kind of guy, and
Yeah.
Twitter's not very good either in some aspects. But on more Facebook news, however, this is a bit better. They get into the cloud gaming race. So currently, there's a limited beta version of Facebook's gaming cloud service, and it's already launched in parts of the United States. Games are available via the browser and the Facebook gaming app. Jason Ruman, the Facebook VP of Play, writes in the announcement blog post that he's going to speak openly from the outset because cloud gaming announcements are prone to hype. He's very concerned about another Stadia repeat. He doesn't want to overpromise things. I think it's a good mindset to have. They plan on focusing on mobile games in limited genres to start. And the big draw for Facebook gaming over Stadia or any other competition is that all the games are going to be free to play and you have no upfront cost. Currently, California, Texas, and several Northeast and Mid Atlantic states are initially included in this beta. So, what do you think about that?
I think that if the cloud gaming race keeps pushing forward, it's gonna we're gonna see a lot more competition between all of these platforms. But as of right now, I think that Xbox is probably the one that's winning the race, in my opinion, just because of the X Cloud. I mean, it is only on Android at this time, which I mean, okay, maybe they're not winning since it's only on Android, but I know that Xbox has what is it, over 1 million people subscribed to the Game Pass, which gives you that xCloud access. Um, I mean, I'll probably never use a cloud gaming platform in my life. I tried out Stadium just to try it out, and it was just not my cup of tea. Just the input latency, I guess you can say, is just absolutely way different than what I know and love.
I think
So
the competition in the space is really good. I just think that the tech isn't at the level it needs to be, and I think too, uh, the global internet infrastructure needs to improve before these game streaming services become viable. Like the majority of the planet is still underneath 10 megabit per second download speeds.
yeah,
Uh, so when you have a household of 5 people, the moment I turn on my 1080p YouTube video, I'm pinning the net, and someone else tries to do something, and it's so slow. And QoS settings and a good router and good wireless access points and all that stuff can only help so much. If your speed to your house sucks, that's your bottleneck. Like,
yeah.
and until that's improved globally, I think these streaming services are going to be difficult to sell to a lot of people.
And it's also kind of hard to put multiplayer games on them just because of the input lag. Um, I could see it being very useful if you have no system whatsoever and you want to play something. Especially if you have, like, what is it, like the Google Chromecast. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
even the Fire Sticks are going to be able to run Luna and Stadia. So I mean, even if you purchase a $20 stick that you can plug into the back of your TV and boom, you're able to play high quality games. That's what it's made for.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a good way to go if you just want like some kind of cheap alternative. But the fact that the Facebook stuff's free, it's almost like, oh man, like sure they're just mobile games and they probably don't have a genre on there yet that you like, but still,
Hmm.
you know, it something worth trying. If you got no other alternative, that might be something to look into.
Yeah.
So we got EA releasing Need for Speed Hot Pursuit remastered comparison screenshots. So this game releases on all platforms November 5th, except for Switch, which is on November 13th. The new screenshots, they do show new destructible assets, updated models for the buildings, better lighting, and a higher resolution user interface, which is all good news. And they have the exact specs here. PS4, Xbox One, Xbox One S, and the Switch will run the game at 30 FPS. PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, and PC offering support for 60 FPS. Xbox One X and PS4 Pro players can choose between 4K 30 or 1080 60. The docked Switch does 1080 30, and the portable mode does 720p 30. So yeah, Switch gets the worst of it there, but that's to be expected.
Yeah.
Good that they have the quality options there as well, performance and quality. Nice to see more games doing that.
Exactly. That's what we're looking for.
I think in a racing game, high frame rate matters way more than high resolution because you know
Mm-hmm.
how bad it looks when you're traveling 250 kilometers an hour and it's at 30 FPS compared to 60? That is just garbage in comparison. No matter how much you blur the edges, you're still not getting the true smooth motion appearance in comparison.
Absolutely. I remember playing Forza Horizon, and I think I was playing on the quality mode, and I realized that there was a performance mode option. And I was like, "Oh my god, why haven't I been playing this my whole life in performance mode? It runs so much better. I actually can drive freely, and it looks amazing. I'd rather take the hit on textures, honestly. Anytime. I'm just an FPS hog, I guess. I just higher the frames, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's a fine line to walk, but I if I had to choose, like yeah, I'd rather 60 over 30 in that. Now, if it was like, would I rather 200 versus 150? Now,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, I might take the 150 if it does look noticeably better. But there's some
Even
settings
like
that you can't really tell.
even like, hey, we'll give you a 120 at 1080 or 4K at 60. I would probably still go 4K.
Yeah,
I
it
feel
depends
like
on the game.
60 is the standard, and I'm happy with 60. Anything lower is what turns me off.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the game too. Like if I was playing a competitive shooter, I'd take any advantage I can get. But if I
Mm-hmm.
was playing uh some kind of story-based open world game, I'd probably prefer the 4K 60 option.
Yeah, I
this
got you.
this is a bit of a small news here to end off on the gaming section here, but Apex Legends coming to Steam with the start of season 7 on November 4th. Crossplay still supported with Origin and consoles, and you get 3 free charms if you make the switch: 1 Half-Life charm and 2 Portal themed charms.
Hey,
Yeah, so kind of like a
get them
no-brainer
free
to
charms.
download on there and get that stuff. Yeah. So we'll be wrapping it up there for the gaming news. We'll be on to the esports now, and we're gonna take a small break here. Have Coach Carl hop in here, and you guys are really gonna enjoy this. We got a lot of nice questions here, and this is gonna be a really good interview. Very happy with it.
See you guys soon. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Guest Podcast. We are now in the esports section here, and we have a very special guest. His name is Performance Coach Carl Daubert. How's it going, Carl? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here. Super excited to hop into some questions around esports and stuff.
We're glad to have you. Thank you so much for joining the show. Well, let's just hop right into the questions here. So to start, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So as Tommy said, my name's Carl Dauber. I'm a mental performance coach. I've been doing that for about 5 years now. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in sport and performance psychology. I've been doing that, just off and on through traditional sports and esports as well, working with different teams, universities, stuff like that. In terms of like actual esports and stuff, I've worked with a couple of professional level teams. Most notably, I worked with the Immortals Overwatch team back before they became the Los Angeles Valiant. I've also worked with the Gladiators Legion and the Los Angeles Gladiators. I've also worked with a Dota 2 team known as, at that time, they were Chaos Esports Club. Now they're the Quincy Crew. And they're killing it over in Dota 2 right now. And then just a bunch of different esports athletes and stuff all across different titles, games, levels, from like amateur all the way up to professional still. So that's kind of like my esports background and stuff like that.
Sweet,
Awesome.
awesome.
So just for people who aren't really too sure, can you describe to us what a mental performance coach is?
Yeah, for sure. So a mental performance coach is kind of like, I mean, it's a coach. It's a person who's there to try and help you develop the mental side of performance. So if you have like a coach who is more like strategy oriented, or a coach who's more like communication oriented, or an analyst or something along those lines, essentially my job relates to the 6 inches between your ears. So stuff like stress and anxiety management, confidence building, motivation training, dealing with like burnout. All of those things kind of fall within the realm of what I work in. If you're someone who gets super nervous before tournaments and you feel like that's negatively impacting your ability to perform, we would have a conversation about that. I would be able to help train you in ways to try and help solve that problem, or get you to a place where you might be a little bit better able to perform. Or if you don't feel super confident, we can figure out ways to help you feel a little more confident going into things. So yeah, that's it. It's a very flowy kind of job. I've done a whole bunch of different things, from building team cohesion to, on a more individual level, like communication and stuff like that as well. So it really kind of goes a little all over the place.
Oh, all right, that actually narrows it down a lot for me. Now I have a really good grasp of it.
So was there a significant moment in your life that kind of made you want to go down this whole path of being a mental performance coach?
Yeah. So I come from a background of traditional sport. I was a track and field and cross country athlete all throughout high school, all throughout college. And what kind of got me interested in the mental side of performance actually happened my senior year of high school. I was the pick to win 300-meter hurdle, guy from my district at the time. And was undefeated for like 3 years running at like traditional meets. And I was like the guy. I was supposed to show up and just like kind of wipe the floor with my competition. Should have been a non-issue. Would have went to the state meet and, kind of been able to like continue on and all that other stuff. And ended up going into that meet and came across the line in second place.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a moment that was kind of like a cold slap in the face as far as training and spending the extra time like developing myself and getting myself super fit and all of that stuff. I felt like I had done it all. I had gone through and spent just a ton of time honing my craft, just like esports players spend a ton of time playing their game, ton of time developing the skill set necessary. But when it came time for me to actually show up and perform at the highest level, I choked. And that was the moment for me where I started asking questions. Why did that happen? What caused that? And
Mm-hmm.
through a lot of really awesome opportunities, like going on to college and even studying abroad in London for a little while with some really excellent, the best sports psychologists in Great Britain, I was able to figure out that a lot of it came down to my mind. I was too stressed out. I was coming in with too much pressure. I put too much pressure on myself. And that ended up kind of being the moment where I was like, I want to help people not have to like avoid going through what I went through in the areas of their life that matter the most to them. So that's kind of then transformed from, working with traditional sport athletes, specifically track and field and cross country, to esports. It's even actually started to lend itself into some of my friends who are business owners, small business owners, things like that. Just places that people really want to see themselves compete or perform at the best, but feel like their mind might be kind of getting in the way of that or not aiding them. So
That's honestly a great story. I love the origins of you becoming a mental performance coach. So from you being like what you're doing right now as a mental performance coach, I don't want to keep saying that, but I know I keep doing that. Honestly, have you noticed like with people who you're working with, like how long it takes for them to kind of get what you're saying, or do you notice results pretty quickly on from your coaching towards them, or does it take a little while?
yeah, great question. And it is a little different depending on the people. There's a really big kind of conversation to be had about like buy-in and like whether or not I'm walking into a room with people who are like already considering that like the mental side of things, they might be able to kind of like push that forward a little bit more and make that more
Mm-hmm.
of an emphasis, versus walking into a room of a bunch of dudes who are like, what does this guy got to say that, I am actually going to care about or want to hear?
Yeah.
And so a lot of the work that I do because the mental side is between your ears and it's a lot of thought related, right? It's very ethereal in a lot of ways. One of the things that I work really hard to do is try and bring it more into like what's actually happening. Like, how can we actually train this in the real world, not just have really great conversations, and then 20 minutes from now you're going to forget everything I said. And when I'm able to do that, when I'm able to kind of show them the ways that they could actually train these things, and that's when I kind of start to get some of that actual like, oh, like maybe there's something to this, maybe there's something that I can actually use here. And when you form it in the degree of like, at the end of the day, I'm there to help you perform better. Whether you decide to believe me or not, it's kind of up to you. But that's my job, and if I don't do my job well, I don't have a job. So, you gotta go in with that kind of aspect. And usually when you frame it from like the performance perspective as opposed to like the therapeutic perspective, which is like there's something wrong in your brain and I'm here to fix that, you tend to get a little bit better response, especially in my experience with like esports.
Yeah, if you kind of tell people that this, like, you don't tell them that there's something wrong, you just say, I can make things better for you if you allow me to.
Exactly.
And there was a few months ago, you gave us that session for the Valorant esports team from Mystic Alliance. And honestly, I noticed right away that a lot of the things you said, like people on the team really took to heart and they understood what you said, and it instantly made them a better player. And they were actually focusing on themselves a little bit more when it came to playing for the team. So, I mean, I could basically answer that question for you and say that, like, I, as a coach, noticed like immediate results for the players on the team. So you do definitely do a good job. And I did appreciate that session that you gave my team because it honestly did work. And I noticed a big difference.
Glad to hear it, man. Glad to hear it. That's awesome.
So moving on to the next question, what methods do you use on people who don't seem too open to having a mental performance coach? For example, someone on an esports team that's forced to join his or her team.
Yeah. What was that one again, Tom?
We'll cut it out.
Gotcha.
We won't.
Yeah, that's a super great question. And I do think that a lot of there's a really big stigma around mental health in general, like outside of esports, within esports. I think it's exemplified even more in esports. People don't like to talk about what's going on between their ears. They don't like to talk about that stuff. So I do try my best when I meet with teams, when I meet with groups, to get to know them first. And try and kind of approach it from the attitude of like, I'm going to care about you as people before I'm going to care about what I can actually do to influence your performance. And that's how I get some of the people to realize like my reasons for being there, my reasons for being in that room, in that conversation or whatever, is because this is something that I'm genuinely passionate about, just like they're genuinely passionate about their game, their decision to try and pursue it professionally or to compete at a professional level. And I think passion speaks really well to passion.
Yeah.
And so I do a lot of stuff to try and help them understand that I'm passionate about performance and increasing performance, just like they're passionate about maximizing performance and trying to get the most out of it that they can. And there's a lot of different conversations that happen when I meet with a team or when I meet with players individually, to try and help draw that out. And my line of questioning may get a little goofy at times. I'm asking people what their favorite colors are and, like where they would like to live if they had unlimited money and stuff like that. But it really does help to kind of build that relationship and get to a point where the players understand like, oh, okay, like this isn't just a dude who's coming in to tell me what to do. Like he wants me to get better on my own terms. And he's just kind of there to help that process out. And that definitely goes a really long way with a lot of the players that I've worked with.
So going a little further into this question, I guess, did you ever have any problems? I wouldn't say problems, but like people who didn't really work well with you during your time with esports players?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, that's an understatement. I've been in situations where I've walked into a room with a professional player who has looked me dead in the eyes and said, "I don't care what you tell me, I'm not listening." Straight up, right out of the gate.
Wow.
Yeah. And so again, like there really is just that stigma, and it would be inappropriate for me to walk into a team, any team, and just assume that everyone's gonna love what I have to say and that everyone's gonna be on board, and that like I completely understand, and like I said, I've kind of done my best to tailor my approach to working with the players who are like immediately the ones who are instantly invested. They're easy to work with. The ones who are telling me flat out that they don't want anything to do with me, okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to convince you. What I am going to do is work with those players who are kind of on the fence, who might see a little bit of the benefit, who might see a little bit of the stuff on how it might be able to help. And when the players who are super invested and the players who are on the fence start to see the benefits of it, and those people who are immediate no's start to slowly see that their teammates and people around them are getting better, that's when all of a sudden the attitude changes a little bit. And
Yeah.
they start going, maybe we could meet for like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
And that's my end, and that's my end. But yeah, I mean, it really is like being open. I talk a lot about the growth mindset in the stuff that I do, being open to the idea of continually trying to get better, and that you are never at the peak that you can be, is a really great way to open up those doors and help people see that, like, if you buy into the growth mindset, your potential becomes limitless, as opposed to shutting everything down at the door just because of some preconceived idea of what you think it is, or not having that full understanding.
yeah. If they're not open to wanting help, it's like almost impossible to help someone. If they just don't want it, it's like, well, there's only so much I can do, and if you don't want it, well, it's never gonna help you. So, yeah.
Exactly.
But then, like you said, that they see all this help being given around them, and they're like, "Oh shit! Like it's actually giving a positive effect. I might want in at this point."
Yep. And that's where I go back to the idea of, like, again, I start with the performance side of things. Like, let's talk about how I'm going to get you better. I don't care where you are. I just want to get you better from where you're at. In traditional sports, for instance, like I work a lot with cross country runners, and when I sit down with a cross country runner for the first time, I don't ask them what time they've run in a 5K. I could care less. I just want them to go from wherever they are to better. And that's as far as that conversation needs to go. I don't need to know your times. I don't need to know your KD. I don't need to know, what level of play you're at. If you're interested and you want to get better, then I can help you do that. And that's kind of enough for me. And the attrition, for those people who are kind of like on the fence, or who aren't interested at all, that can go a really long way with helping things out as well.
Absolutely. So I know we're kind of talking about like relationships between the players and such, from a professional standpoint. But how was it working with the Immortals team when you were living with them? For those of you who don't know, and the Immortals esports team is pretty big. I haven't heard much from them recently, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. I just haven't really seen anything about them. But either way, how was it living with them?
Yeah. So that was my first job in esports. That was I actually I flew out to Los Angeles, and I was living in a house in Redondo Beach, with it was me, the head coach, the team manager, and 9 players. And it's 6 players at a time for Overwatch, for anyone who isn't familiar with the game. And so we had a couple of subs, and I got there 2 days before we flew in 3 Korean speaking players. So before I got there, the entire team was English speaking. They were entirely from North America, whether from Canada or the United States. And then we decided to kind of add these 3 Korean players into the roster. And so we all lived in a huge mansion in Redondo Beach. It was literally like a 5-minute walk from the actual beach itself, and you could go right into the ocean. And it was a crazy team environment. You're waking up every day, And I lived down in the basement where there was a fully furnished like bedroom and bathroom and everything. And I would go upstairs and the players would be, getting ready to start scrims for the day. Or depending on the day, like I was also at that time doing performance coaching in the form of like athletic exercises, workouts, and things like that as well. So, I would get the players up. We would go for like a run down to the beach. We'd go play some ultimate frisbee for a little while, maybe hop into the ocean, swim around for a little bit, come back up, get showered, changed, have breakfast, move right from breakfast into scrims for the day, usually about 6 to 8 hours of scrims, give or take, with like a little break in between. And then the players were kind of free to do whatever they wanted for the rest of their day after that point. And a lot of that time, the after time, was when I kind of met with players individually, or we would do like a workshop of some kind, or, just kind of like there to kind of float around, answer questions and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it was a very intense time, and I loved it. I still wear my Immortals little wristlet here, kind of as a reminder of that time, and just was super great, and very stressful as well.
So I think I remember you telling me, didn't they have like their own personal chef or dietitian or something like that?
Yeah, so we actually had a chef on staff, and part of my job was also to essentially tell the chef, like, make these things, don't make these things, like guide her a little bit. She usually did most of it, honestly, on her own. She didn't really need to have too much feedback. And also, it got to a point where, for me personally, like looking at the players that we had, getting them to eat pretty much anything at all and like have consistent meals was like more important than like necessarily at the immediate of what they were eating. Though we did start to kind of change that over the course of the time that I was there with the team. So yeah, stuff like that I went from working as an opiate addictions counselor to having a live-in chef and living on a beach in California. So
That's awesome, though. That must have been
sweet.
just an insane experience.
Absolutely surreal, definitely.
Yeah. So kind of going along with that question that I just asked you, what was your most memorable moment while you were working with esports teams?
Oh, so
if you have them.
I got a couple. I would say the first one is probably when the Immortals Overwatch team won Contender 0, season 0. That was really, really crazy, and like the attitude in the house was absolutely insane, because we, at that time, we still weren't doing like live competitions, so it was completely in house. And I remember going into that last final match, and there's like Snapchats and videos somewhere of like we had like the Immortals actually sent over their social media manager, who actually now is the head of social media at Cloud9, I want to say, Portillo.
Wow.
And so he was there and like recording us, because we didn't, like, just in case we won, like he wanted to get the reaction. And I mean, it was just absolutely insane. Like when we finally kind of pushed the team off the point, it was on Havana. I remember that, for those of you guys who are familiar with that game. And it was at the last point of Havana, and we managed to get the enemy team off and secure the W, and it was absolutely insane. And then the second one that I have is actually working with the Chaos Esports Club Dota 2 team, and that was when they qualified for Katowice, which is like the next major for Dota 2, or was the next major at the time.
Yeah.
That was really huge for them, because they actually had missed out on the one before that. So like them kind of being able to get back into that. And I was actually scheduled to go with the team to go do that, to go to Poland, and then COVID hit. And so,
oh, damn.
yeah, so
Unfortunate.
super unfortunate, but still, like, the team ended up kind of going on and playing at it, and it was a great experience for them and all that stuff. So those are the two big ones that kind of stand out in my mind for sure.
Okay. So if somebody wanted your services, how do your rates go, and like what kind of plans do you offer?
Yeah. So right now, if you were an individual player who wanted to come to me and just meet with me and kind of find out if this is like something that you want to do, and like going the mental route and getting a mental coach, first meeting that I have is always free. And that'll be like an hour-long initial consultation just to find out if you and I can even function on the same wavelength, and figure out what if anything I might be able to do to help you.
Okay.
From that point, if you decide like, yes, I'm totally invested in this, I love what you have to say, like let's do this. My rates usually run between like 85 and $100 for kind of like individual sessions. I recommend doing at least like 1 or 2 a month to get the most out of it.
Yeah.
What you get with that 85 to $100 is going to not just be like individual sessions with me, it's also like access to me on Discord, and it's also access to like I give out like different worksheets and exercises and things for you to have, so that way you can practice those on your own as well. So you're paying for like the immediate hour, but what you're getting is much more like much farther beyond that. And I have players who will, we'll talk, we'll have that hour, and then they'll kind of like hit me up throughout the month, just letting me know like, hey, I really like this, breathing exercise that you gave me, or the journaling's been going really well, or, this is how I did on my last couple matches or something like that. And we kind of shoot messages back and forth in that style. And then by the time we get to that next meeting, we've got like a really great idea of where to start, and then kind of build into like future idea of where things go.
Okay.
In terms of teams, if you're a team or like a manager or something like that, again, first session is free. Usually I like to meet if there is like a head coach or if there's a manager or someone who's kind of in charge of the team. I'll meet with them first just to kind of get an idea of why they're contacting me or what it is that they're kind of looking to get out of it. And then we'll move into like a team session as well to kind of like, again, just share information with each other, me explain who I am, what I do, what areas I might be able to help them out with, what areas are pain points for them, what their experience has been, and stuff like that. And then we kind of go forward based off of that.
Awesome. That's good to know. When you're working, whether it be in the esports field or like this just regular sports side of things, I should say, do you usually just work alone, or do you have like a partner or consult with other colleagues?
So right now, it's actually interesting, and this would be a hot take for you guys, for you guys to have here, because right now we are in the process as mental performance coaches in the esports space, creating an association of sorts for performance coaches.
Okay.
And it's a first of its kind of idea where we're trying to get all of us. We have a Discord right now, and we're planning on trying to kind of like build this out to be the end all be all for performance coaches, whether you're looking for something like what I do, the mental performance side of things, something like strength and conditioning for those who are looking to add that to their esports team regimens, something like nutrition or like dieting, things like that. We're really trying to cover all the bases of performance that exist outside of strictly playing the game. And I'm kind of like running point on that project right now. So typically right now I'm working on my own. If I'm going to be meeting with a team or a team reaches out to me, we'll have that discussion, and I will work with them. And if I feel like, we have that initial consultation and, hey, what you're looking for isn't exactly the kind of stuff that I offer, I do refer to like other people who I've worked with in the space who I know are good at what they do, to get you the kind of stuff that you're looking for. Like I've drifted away from like the traditional training, like physical training standpoint, but I know a ton of people who are really, really excellent at that stuff and can definitely help specifically gamers get like, maximize that stuff. Obviously mental performance. And then, I mean, even stuff like if you're someone who, going beyond the performance side of things for mental health, if you're talking about things like depression or bipolar or those kinds of things, there are people who work specifically with gamers that I also know on like that therapy side of things, if that's something that kind of comes up as well. So I can refer out, but it is kind of like a one-man show as far as, my stuff is concerned.
Okay. Well, I hope your that association comes to fruition for you. I hope all that works well in your favor.
Thanks.
So like a big question. I feel like this may be a big question, but how important do you consider physical training versus mental training? I know you were just talking about how you kind of, what you say, you kind of sway away a little bit from the physical.
It's interesting. I think, and I've sat down with coaches, traditional and esport, and I'll ask them flat out, like, what percentage of your game or your sport do you think is mental versus physical, right? The age-old question. Because in traditional sport, there's always been that saying, like, oh, like, when you're competing and you're out there and you're fighting, the sport is 80% mental or 85% mental or 90% mental, and the other whatever is physical, right? Disagree. And I'm a mental performance coach. I'll be the first one to tell you mental stuff is super, super important. But if you're, for instance, like, again, going with the traditional sports side of things, if you're a cross country runner and you aren't out there putting in the mileage necessary to train yourself to be ready to run a 5K really fast, and you're the most mentally fit person in the world, when that gun goes off for that 5K, you could be the most, you could be like the Michael Phelps of mental fitness, but it is not going to help you run a 5K.
Sounds like me when I was running the 5K.
Sounds like me when I was
The very first race I did was an invitational, and the gun went off, and I sprinted like 500 meters, and I was like top 20 maybe out of the 300 people, and then I just died. Like, I actually just finished last, completely last out of the whole 5K, and there were people on my team that are like, why are you so far up? Like, why do I have to pass Tom out of everybody? But that was a fun time.
I remember that for sure.
Wish I could go back to that specific race.
Tell yourself 5 minutes before, whatever you do,
take it a little easier.
Yeah, right. but that's my point, right? Like, you could be like the most confident, the most motivated, the most, mentally fit person, but if you don't have the skill set there, and if you translate that to esports, right, it's the similar thing to like playing the game, right? Like, if you don't know call outs on maps, or if you don't know how to position well, or you don't have you haven't practiced the mechanical skill of flicks or something along those lines, like, you're gonna struggle, like really, really struggle to try and get to like the highest level of competition.
Yep.
Now, where I do come into play, right, is that when you are competing and when you are trying to get and access those skills that you have been practicing, that you have been training, the mental side is often what determines whether or not you can do that effectively, right?
Yeah.
You guys hear of choking, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Every day.
Exactly, right? Like, choking.
Every game.
Tippity top, right? Choking, the prospect of choking exists entirely in the brain. It's not that suddenly you forgot how to play the game, but your brain is viewing the situation in such a way that it is perceiving it as though you have never touched this thing in the first place, right? When I talk with esports players who have gone through a choke, they'll say to me, like, I need to get a new mouse, I need to get a new keyboard, I need to get a new monitor, because all of those things felt super foreign to me. Like, I've never touched them before. Like, they didn't feel right, right? And it's not that it's not like the mouse suddenly changed form between when you last touched it and now. It's just that your brain is processing the situation, processing the environment in a different way. And all those hours of scrimming, all those hours of odd review, all those hours of aim training and all that stuff just gets immediately thrown out the window because your brain is treating it like it's something completely different anyway. And that's where the mental side really comes to play. It's about allowing and letting yourself be able to show all that hard work, all that time that you spent practicing in a highly competitive environment, as well as helping you do that consistently, right? Mm-hmm. Anyone can have a game where they pop off, right?
Yeah.
They just go nuts. Oh my God, that's the best game I ever played. But if every other game you go 0-22, right?
Yeah.
You're really that great of a player, or did you just kind of get lucky, right?
You're in the flow state at that time.
So that's a whole other conversation. Yeah. Right? But yeah, like, the idea is, like, my job is to try and get you to perform consistently. In terms of, like, to touch on it briefly, in terms of like flow states, people get into flow when the competition level and their expertise line up perfectly. That's when the flow state is activated. Okay. If you're perceiving the competition as head and shoulders above you, or if you haven't taken the time and to like deliberately practice, it's going to be really hard to find that equilibrium, and it's going to be almost impossible to find it when you're competing against the best of the best. So the whole idea behind what I do with flow is I don't talk about flow as like the end all be all thing to aim for. I talk about flow in, hey, if you make it into flow, that's great. Hands off the wheel, you're good to go. You're fine. I don't need to touch you, right? Yeah. But if you're coming in to practice and maybe you have a little bit of a stomach ache, maybe you have a headache, maybe you got in a fight with your significant other and that's playing in your mind, right? Or you got something going on, but you're still being asked to compete and perform, I'm going to try and get you to a place where you can do that, right? Outside of those factors, outside of what's going on, outside of the inner turmoil, outside of the pressure, all that stuff, I'm going to get you ready to perform and compete. And if I can do that, you're giving yourself the best chance to get to flow state, but it's also not going to be a requirement. You're not going to expect flow state to be the only time that you can perform well. You're going to recognize I can perform well and not be at like my tippity top best ever. And that's where a lot of, especially pros, that's where pros live. Pros live in the state between excellent and flow state. That's the only place that they compete.
Yeah.
And that's like the difference between, you know, a lot of ladder climbers and people who want to go pro versus kind of like, you know, everyone else. So.
Okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me.
We're almost done here, but I do have a couple more questions for you. How this is a question that can probably help me and Giga as well, but how do you prevent the feeling of burnout in the people you coach and just, I mean, gamers in general? Like if someone is getting those burnout symptoms, but they really enjoy the game and they want to keep playing, like how do you kind of edge them to keep pushing forward, I guess I could say?
Yeah. So burnout is a huge topic in esports, like right off the top. And I think first and foremost is to clarify, right, like what burnout is. And for everyone, it affects them a little bit differently. And everyone has different symptoms or things that they feel. Most notably, and you can kind of generalize some of them, right? Like, I don't like to play the game as much. I'm not as motivated to like get onto a ladder and climb or try and grind elo or something along those lines. I'm just genuinely not as I'm quick to anger or quick to get frustrated when I do play the game. You know, those are kind of like the big ones that I see. In terms of like trying to manage those things, it's very person to person. Everyone needs something a little different. Something that I like to do is sit down or have my players or my athletes sit down with a pen and paper and write, why do I play this game up at the top? And then just unload. Just take everything that's in your brain and just write it. And just write until you can't. Until everything that you have is out onto that piece of paper. Take a step away, go have dinner, go call your girlfriend, go for a walk, whatever. Come back, read it, right? If your reasons that are in there don't align with the same things that you originally thought you were playing the game for, or the things you originally thought that you wanted that game to be for you, then there's your disconnect. That's why you're burning out. Because you're existing and you're working under a goal or an idea of what you want to do that no longer makes sense for why you play the game. Okay. And if those two things are working against each other, then yeah, you're going to have a bad time. You know, I have a lot of players that I talk to who are like those ladder climbers, those people who want to try and go pro, who want to get to the next level. But when they look at their reasons for playing the game originally, a lot of it was like, oh, I had fun. You know, it was great to be on a team and like be able to hang out with my friends and all this other stuff. And then it becomes something fundamentally different to them. They go, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this. Like, you know, maybe I could, you know, see how good I can get at this, right? And so they start to push the envelope and they start to focus a little bit more and they start to care a little bit more and they start to do all of these things. But when you add all that stuff on, that's when you're starting to add the ingredients for burnout to the overall pie. Okay?
Yeah, it no longer just
So
becomes
you got to
something
pay
relaxing.
attention. Bingo. It's no longer a stress reliever. It's no longer something that you enjoy doing. It's something that you almost feel obligated to do. And at that point, that's when burnout's at its highest prevalence. So I start with the why and work from there and kind of get people to work backwards from where they're at right now to have a better understanding and tie that why in a little bit more. And if the question is like, if it comes down to like, okay, I wrote out my why and I see bits and pieces, right? I see kind of how this works and kind of how it doesn't work and kind of how I feel like I really still care about this stuff, but this stuff I don't really care about anymore, or this goal is no longer attainable or whatever, then you work with it. But at least at least then you have a place to start from and start to figure out, where do I go from here? What do I need to do to help myself enjoy this more and get out of it what I actually want to get out of it? Um, I'm a big believer. People like to set like big, lofty, huge goals of like, I'm going to go pro in Valorant. I'm going to go pro in League. I'm going to go pro in this. And those goals are great, but you got to challenge them at some points. And you got to ask, what am I willing to do to actually put myself there? And am I willing to do that then? Am I willing to put in the time necessary? And reevaluating your goals and going back and changing them doesn't mean that you failed. It just means that that goal over the course of your experience no longer makes sense. And I've had players who have started out, I'm going to go pro in League, who are now coaches at some really successful teams because they made the decision. I thought I wanted to go pro in this, but what I really wanted to do was help other people get better at this. Or what I really wanted to do was develop a really good understanding of it so I can share that knowledge. Or I really like working with people or whatever. And it fundamentally changes the way that they interact with the game. And now, they're loving life, doing what they love and stuff like that. So burnout's a very, very tricky thing to tackle, but I think going back to your why is going to be the best place to start figuring out how to manage it and how to work through it, whether it's even worth working through in the first place, honestly, or whether it's time to just reevaluate the goals, reevaluate the system that you're working in, and get yourself to a place where you're a little bit happier, a little bit healthier, and that's my big thing. So.
I feel like that's kind of what happened to me when I was playing Valorant. And I kind of think I took the approach that you're talking about. Like, when I started playing Valorant, I, at the beginning, was like, I'm going to try my hardest. I'm going to be on the team and try to get up there in the Valorant world and, try to make it professionally, whatever. And then as time went on, I realized, like, there are these certain aspects of this game that I just feel like I can't handle, and I would just so much rather have the knowledge of this game and be able to lead a team to victory than play on the team myself, just because it's not like, I'm not going to say it was like an extremely stressful time, because it was very stressful, but in the end I just enjoyed helping the team, like coaching and managing, rather than being a player on the team itself. So I feel like I kind of went through the steps of like changing my goal from being a player on the team to wanting to just help manage the team instead.
Mm-hmm.
But
and that's important.
Honestly, like, just you saying that made me actually think about it, and I was like, well, I guess I kind of did go about that in a positive manner, rather than just saying, screw Valorant, I'm out. This isn't the game for me. Like, I wanted to continue to be a part of Valorant, but I just didn't want to continue in the sense that I was.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's parallels all across the world. Like, burnout is not an esports specific thing. It's just super prevalent in it. But like streaming is another thing straight out of the gate that, you're talking about trying to like turn again, like playing video games into from a hobby, something you enjoy doing, into potentially like this is what I'm going to do with my career. This is what I'm going to do to make money and support myself and my family and all that other stuff. And that is innately stressful. And you're taking, going back to it, you're taking something that was for a lot of people something fun, something that they love to do, and was stress reduction technique, and you're now turning it into something else. So
Yeah.
another kind of tip on that side of things as well is like, if you're taking something that is a hobby and you're trying to turn it into something a little bit more serious, or take it to that next level, you have to replace that hobby with another hobby. And I would personally recommend something away from the computer.
Yeah.
I've had players who tell me like a professional League of Legends player tell me like, oh yeah, when I'm not playing League of Legends, like I'll go play Minecraft. And I'm like, okay, that's okay. But like, how about like,
It's my life.
how about like, let's like go for a walk, or like, let's take up like something that the Immortals guys did that I absolutely loved. They got into paddleboarding.
Yeah.
Right? They would go down to the pier and they would go rent paddle boards, and they would go out into like the jetty. And I'm like, that's great. Like, get out, go do something like that. Streamers, same thing. Like, if you're sitting in front of a computer and you're playing games, or you're just on the computer all the time, and then you go from that into also now streaming and trying to be like a personality and doing all that stuff as well, like you have to anticipate that at some point your eyes are either going to explode out of your head, or you're gonna feel the effects of burnout. You're gonna feel that passion start to fade a little bit. So having something else there, having a support system outside, can definitely help along that process as well.
Something that I find helps me is when I step back and I look at everything as a whole, it seems so overwhelming. Like, if I'm looking at trying to get a bigger audience as a streamer, it's like, oh, there's so many different things that you have to do and that you should do better and all this. And then when I like focus on one particular thing, well, I'm like, okay, if I'll just get this YouTube video done and upload that, and then it's like, it's so much easier when you're focusing on one thing at a time instead of trying to do everything at once, because that is what makes me be like, oh, this is just too much. Like, I'm not doing it right now. And
Yep.
if I focus on one thing instead, I'm like, this is so easy. Like, all I gotta do is this one thing, and then you feel really good in your mind once it's done, and you're just like, this is great. And then you go to bed happy instead of depressed that you didn't do anything because you felt overwhelmed.
Yep. And that's huge. And I talk a lot about living in the present moment. I do a lot of the work that I do is meditation focused. It has a lot of like breathing exercises and just trying to get you back to the present moment. And the only time that you have any control or say over what happens is literally right now.
Yeah.
Right. And so making that decision, like you said, right, like instead of looking at everything and getting so overwhelmed and so like, instead you kind of dial it back and you're like, what's the next most immediate thing that I need to do to just get 1 inch closer or further?
Exactly.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to focus on that for right now.
And I find like once I start doing what I'm thinking to do, it's so much easier than I think of when I'm like, oh, like, I gotta do this YouTube video, like, oh, this is a lot of work or whatever. But then once I start doing it, I'm like, this is so easy. Like, why did I think this is gonna be hard? Like, I'm already half done. It's only been half an hour. Like,
Yeah.
once you get started, it's way easier. But it's just starting it up. At least for me, is what is the most difficult thing that I find.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people ask me, because I mean I'm a freaking gamer, right? Like gaming is my hobby. It's like one of my major hobbies, I'm just gonna say. And I also stream. So if I'm not streaming and I'm playing a game on the side, I always have questions from my friends like, dude, you're playing a video game right now, like why aren't you streaming? And I'm just like, I there's times where I want to stream, and then there's times where I just want to game and relax and not worry about the streaming aspect of things, because I I definitely have a few friends that every time they're playing a game they're streaming it, you know, and I just can't follow that because A, I switch between different games. B, I feel like streaming in a sense, like I put in a lot of effort into my streaming, or at least it seems like I do. And I want to put as much effort as I can into the streaming aspect of things. And if I'm not streaming, I just want to chill out, relax, talk with some friends, and just bullshit around and play what I want to play. So I do 100% get what you're saying. And my next question was going to be, if you could give one short tip to anyone, what would that be? But I feel like you kind of answered it right there. If there's anything else you want to add or any other tip that you want to say, you can go for it. But that was a really good tip that you did just give.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. The big thing for me right now, and I've been saying it to all my esports athletes, the big thing I've been saying to all my traditional sports athletes is be kind to yourself right now. Um, I think there's so much going on in the world. There's so much. There's just it's overwhelming. It's so
Mhm.
easy to get overwhelmed, whether that's on the esports grind, whether that's just with life in general. So be kind to yourself. Give yourself a reminder. I have a reminder set in my phone that goes off at 9:30 in the morning every day to give myself a compliment. And it sounds a little silly, but at the end of the day, when you have so much negativity surrounding you and so much stress and so much pressure and so much anxiety, it's nice to give yourself that moment to just kind of breathe and let yourself know like you're doing the best that you can with what you have.
Yeah.
uh, and that is all that we can do. So if I was to give kind of like a closing tip, and it's not exactly esports related, it's a little bit more mental health, but I would say that that's kind of the big one. And the only other thing I'll add there is find your why. Always ask yourself why you do what you do.
Okay.
And if you can pinpoint that, then you've got all that you need to start and figure out what needs to happen next. But figuring out your why is always going to be crucial.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Last but not least, where can people find you?
Yeah, so I am on Twitter. Is probably the best place for esports people to find me. That's at PERF_coach_Carl. You can find me on there. I also have a website, performancecoachcarl.com. On there, you can find a little bit more about my background information, where I'm from, the different things that I've done. And you'll also be able to, if you're interested, sign up for an initial consultation. As I said, those are completely free. You're more than welcome to sign up, and we can chat about what I might be able to do to help you out. And you can also follow along. There's a couple of like videos on there and just kind of different things that different resources and stuff that you can kind of get a broader perspective of what I do. So there's a kind of like the two big ones that I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate having you, Performance Coach Carl. It has been an honor, and honestly, it was an amazing time with you. Hopefully, we can get together another time down the road and see how things are going. Besides that, we are going to end the interview here and move on further with the podcast. But Coach Carl, everybody, have a great night, and
Thank you.
appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Glad to be here. Thank you so much.
All right, and for streaming news, so we got a lot of news here on Twitch streamers getting taken down with DMCA notices. I just wanna say as well too, it's a good interview. Leave a comment down below. I think that interview was quite good. It was quite. I know it was. Make sure you get in touch with Carl if you think any of his services might be interesting to you. Uh, I don't consider myself someone who needs it, but if you think that it might help you, then I would highly suggest that would be very productive.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so we're gonna move in here this Twitch streamer news about the DMCA. So Twitch is currently very aggressively removing any and all copyrighted music it detects on the platform. Streamers have been deleting all their VODs and clips to protect themselves from DMCA takedown. The biggest issue is Twitch not allowing any counterclaims. So let's say I play music, Twitch's algorithm detects it. That's copyright, but like I have the right to use the music, like I've purchased a license or something, for example. They don't care. They're just auto deleting everything. It's all gone. You can't get it back. It's just gone. A lot of people are attempting to mass download their VODs and clips. They can keep them and post them on YouTube or whatnot. Some people might not know what the DMCA is. It's the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. It allows for websites like Twitch to host user-generated content under a provision quickly known as Safe Harbor. Basically, it says that all platforms can't be sued if they take prompt action to remove or to block access to a copyright infringing material after they receive notice an infringement claim from a copyright holder or holder's agent. So, Twitch is safe legally if they take action, if someone reports that they found copyrighted music. Let's say I made a song and it was copyright and Tommy played on his stream. And I was like, what the fuck, Twitch? Like, you gotta get rid of this. And if Twitch didn't, then I'd have grounds to sue. But if Twitch did, then I have no grounds. And either, in the case of YouTube at least, I will get the monetization from that video, or I could potentially take the video down, or the video owner has to mute that part of the video and whatnot. This is they've done this before, but this is probably the most aggressive they've ever been on this. And I don't personally play any copyright music on when I was on Twitch or now on YouTube. I try and play just songs from NCS, no copyright sounds. I do find them very good. Good songs on there, genre I like. Have you had any issues with the DMCA stuff on your channel?
So I did happen to purchase a license to be able to stream Monster Cat music, $5 a month. So I was 100% down with it, and I can play any of their specific soundtracks that they have, and I haven't had any issues. None of my Twitch broadcasts get muted for any reason as long as I'm playing this music. So I haven't really come across any issues. I did happen to come across one issue when I posted a highlight reel to YouTube, and it instantly got flagged because I was playing the music from Monster Cat, but all I did was copy the link and paste it in Monster Cat's subscription thing. Instantly took the flag away. Like, it was no issue. So I mean, it was an issue for like 30 seconds and it got solved. Besides that, I haven't come across any issues besides like a couple portions of a broadcast being muted because I was playing a certain song or something like that. So no problems, to be honest with you.
The official Twitch response and what they've said from a spokesperson that works at Twitch is, we are incredibly proud of the essential service Twitch has become for so many artists and songwriters, especially during this challenging time. It's crucial that we protect the rights of songwriters, artists, and other music industry partners. Continue to develop tools and resources to further educate our creators and empower them with more control over their content, while partnering with industry-recognized vendors in the copyright space to help us achieve these goals. Doesn't seem like content creators are at the forefront with the unfortunate act. Now, from what I've read, it seems that Twitch has so much copyright infringement on the platform, they couldn't even spend the time it would take to even fantasize the idea of allowing a counterclaim or anything from the creators. Because if they took that much time, like, they just don't have the time to manually review that stuff. And I understand that, but as well, as a content creator, you gotta also be aware of the DMCA and how it affects you and your content. You can't just play any of these songs. It's just not allowed. You gotta have permission. You gotta have the proper licenses and whatnot. If you don't care, then yeah, all your videos will be demonetized, and all their money is gonna go to the copyright holder. And some people don't care about that, especially if your videos are only getting 10, 20, 30 views. But on Twitch, all your VODs are gonna be muted, and eventually you'll get banned if you keep doing it, which has to take punishment against people that are infringing on DMCA.
Yeah. It just seems like they're doing it in waves. So they're probably, in my opinion, getting all these DMCA notices, and they probably have a certain amount of time before they need to take action. So they do it in big waves like this, and this wave just happened to be massive, in my opinion. I mean, there were streamers like Lyric who was like, oh, I got hit with the DMCA. I have no clue what it was from, but yeah, they removed a bunch of my clips, and I don't know why, but it's just like I don't. In my opinion, it has to be waves of say like, oh, you have 3 months to get rid of this or something like that, and they just do it in massive waves like that.
Well, on more DMCA news, Dragon Force, Herman Lee banned from Twitch amid the DMCA drama. That one in here, so if you want to take it through.
Yeah, so people don't know exactly the reasoning why Herman Lee got banned, but he is a musical streamer on Twitch. He plays a lot of music, even from his band. So, I mean, that goes to show how difficult this DMCA thing can be. So, popular music streamer and Dragon Force guitarist Herman Lee had his Twitch account banned on October 27th, with the reason still unknown. In a shock move, Twitch has suspended popular musician from streaming on the platform, which he uses to provide insight into the life of professional musicians, as well as to shred his guitar like the metal god that he is. If you guys know Dragon Force Through the Fire and Flames, it's all you need to know. Speculation is that he's been banned as part of a new wave of DMCA strikes that have been sweeping across Twitch, what we've been talking about. And as a musical streamer, this makes the lives of musicians such as Herman Lee particularly difficult. Many have and may be banned in the future due to these new regulations, even if they're playing their own music. So nobody knows the exact reason why Herman Lee has been banned. I don't even think he knows exactly and how long this ban is. I'm not sure if it's permanent or not, but it just all ties into what we were talking about.
This is an issue when you put all your eggs in one basket too, and I'm not saying that people never should or shouldn't trust platforms, but in the case of Herman Lee, there, playing a lot of his own music and stuff, and he's a popular musician, and I don't think any of the songs that he's played, and any of those people would have issues. I doubt actually musicians are hitting him with copyright strikes because it's free publicity on a popular stream, and he's a musician, and if he's playing a song and he's like, yeah, this song is killer, dude, people aren't going to be like, oh, like, this is the worst thing ever, like, what a piece of shit playing this song on the stream. People are going to be like, oh my god, like, I'm going to go check that song out on Spotify, that song's sweet. Now you just have like 5,000 extra plays on your song because he put it on his stream. I highly doubt any creators or musicians are hitting them with copyright. It sounds like an automatic thing. And their system, I'm not too sure, don't quote me on this, but it might be set up that he got hit so many times, it's such a frequent span that it auto-banned him. You know what I mean? And now they have to manually fix this. Could be wrong, though. It could have been a manual ban. I don't understand why, though. Especially since if he is a musical streamer, he probably has licenses or set agreements with these other musicians to allow him to play the music. He's a musician. He knows how DMCA works.
Yep. I guess we just got to wait and see for further news on that. If we figure anything out, we'll update you on the next podcast or even on our Twitter, the G.E.S.T podcast.
Yeah, so we'll hop right into tech news here. So what we got going on this week? Apple iPhone 12 ceramic screen. They claim it is tougher than glass. So Corning is the company that makes Gorilla Glass and as well as the ceramic shield. The iPhone 12 uses a ceramic shield. The Galaxy Note 20 Ultra will use Gorilla Glass Victus. So Gorilla Glass Victus is Corning's newest Gorilla Glass. It is their best that they have in the Gorilla Glass category. Ceramic Shield, however, is newer, different tech. It's also made by Corning, so same company. Glass ceramic and regular glass are very different. Chemically speaking, ceramic is much stronger than regular glass and does a better job weathering the elements than glass and even most metals do. Apple claims that this ceramic shield is 4 times as drop resistant as its predecessor, and its predecessor was very drop resistant already. And a big thing for me isn't so much I worry about breaking my phone when it falls or cracking the screen or whatever. I usually have a screen protector on anyways. I'm not too worried about it. My big thing is less broken phones equals less e-waste, which is better for the planet. You get to have your phone for longer. A big reason why people get rid of their phones is, oh man, like I'm so sick of crack screen, dude. Like this is crazy. Like I can hardly see the video I'm watching. And we've all most likely cracked our phone screens before, and you know how much of a bummer that is, and how much you just look at your phone and you're disgusted in it, and it's like, I'm getting a new phone now. Screw it. Well, if you're gonna have these resistant phones, drops important to note that the scratch resistance might not be nearly as improved as drop resistance. They're uh, two different measurements for phones, and the ceramic shield, because it is better for drop resistance, doesn't necessarily make it better for scratch resistance. Anyways, I think that's very good news that they're putting this advanced screen protection on their phones. I look
Yeah,
forward to
absolutely.
seeing more phones use it. I have a Razer phone too, gamer phone. I don't even know what it has on
Gamer
it
phone.
for screen protection built into the display. I have a screen protector on it, so I don't worry about it. I've broken the screen protector actually 4 times, and
Holy shit.
I just replaced it every time. It's normally dropping it on concrete or whatever in a parking lot or close out of my hands or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't. I mean, what phone do you have?
I have the iPhone 11.
Okay, so that's
No
good news for
issues.
you.
No issues. My phone screen's probably like a 9 out of 10 right now. Um, I did have a screen protector on it, but it got cracked, so I took it off, and I haven't had the chance to replace it. But I mean, it's nothing wrong with it. There might be a minor scratch or two, but that's it.
Yeah, you're not gonna like lose any sleep over scratches, but
No.
yeah. Moving on. AMD's 5700X chip claims top score in single-threaded performance. So biggest thing here is price. The $299 Ryzen 5 5600X is just beating the i9 10900K in passmark CPU test in single-threaded performance. The 10900K, however, notably has 4 more cores and 8 more threads, but it also does cost $250 more than the 5600X. Sorry. It appears for the first time AMD can compete in terms of pure single-threaded performance, which, for gamers, as anyone knows, very important for games. A lot of games, even still today, aren't heavily optimized for 6, 8, 10 core, etc. Still heavy on 4, 3, 4. So having this good single core performance, this single threaded performance, is critical in keeping these high frame rates up. That's why Intel, even with the domination of Ryzen in the past years, has still been technically the champ for when it comes to pure gaming. But it seems that it might be turning the tides now for an exciting first time. And Intel reportedly lost a fair bit of profit in the last quarter, and their stock prices dropped about 10%. Pretty big hit for a company that large. And AMD, however, has just reported that they had, I think, an 80% increase in profit in the last quarter, which
Wow.
is huge for a company that
Yeah.
size. And just in the last 5 years alone, their stock price went from $2 a stock to, I think it's $88 a stock today. So when you look at that kind of advancement, and that's here from the good news that they've done with Ryzen CPUs. Uh, more AMD news. They've I don't know how to say this. I guess I should have looked it up. They agree to buy Xilinx. Is that how you think you'd say it?
Uh, I don't even want to try.
Xilinx.
Xilinx.
Anyways, they just purchased them. $35 billion in stock. This deal will broaden AMD's business into chips and markets that use 5G communication and automotive electronics. This deal helps AMD grab a bigger share of component sales for data centers. They'll also counter Nvidia, currently has just purchased ARM. They are bulking up. Lisa Su, which is AMD's CEO, said in prepared remarks that Xilinx would help establish her company as, I quote, industry's high performance computing leader and partner of choice for the largest and most important technology companies in the world. The company said
Wow.
that the deal was expected to be completed by the end of 2021. Victor Peng, which is Xilinx CEO, continued to lead the operation after the close of the deal. So even though AMD is going to be majorly taking over the company, their CEO will still be in charge. This is big news. AMD hasn't had a sale this big in a very long time. I think their prior last purchase, I don't remember the company, but it was only about a $5 billion deal. Obviously, still an absurd amount of money. You can't even
Yeah.
picture $35 billion in your head. Like you don't even know what it looks like. Like I don't think you could fit $35 billion cash in my apartment.
Probably not. Probably not. It's a lot of money.
And on our last note for the tech section here, Nvidia's GeForce RTX 3070 1440p gaming for $500. This card will release October 29th. It was delayed a few weeks back. 1440p is 1440p max settings is the target for this GPU. Nvidia delayed this release because they were hoping to produce more as stock ran out instantly for 3080s and 3090s.
Yeah.
The RTX 3070 Ampere card is 60% faster at 1440p than the GeForce RTX 2070 and around 30 to 40% faster than the 2070 Ti and 2070 Super. Games like Minecraft and Control are a few of the victims. Weird that the article victim, but
Victims.
few victims tested on the GPU with substantial full power. I guess three times the performance. Yeah, 3070 is going to be I probably, unless the 3060 is powerful, the 3070 will probably be your best bang for your buck card. $500 for 1440p, well over 144 FPS in the majority of games, especially esports titles. You're going to be blowing this stuff away, and you're definitely going to be pushing 4K at some older titles, 4 years old titles. It's a good time to be a PC gamer. It really is. It's a good time to be a console gamer too.
Yeah, I honestly was thinking about if I didn't upgrade to a newer computer to just pick up the 3070. I mean, sure, $500. It's like you're buying another console, but honestly, isn't it supposed to run better than the 2080 as well? I know
Yeah.
you mentioned stats against the 2070, but
Yeah, it's 30 to 40% faster than the 2070, so that would place it about 20% faster than the 2080 Super. Probably only about 15 faster than that.
yeah,
I think it's about equal performance. 80 Ti probably a little slower. When you look at 3070 card being better than last gen top card, yeah, you're looking at not better, but close to, very close,
absolutely.
half the price. Yeah, that's a substantial, very substantial upgrade. I saw some articles saying that GPUs are overpriced and Nvidia has inflated them. I heavily disagree. I think when you look at, let's say, the 970, which was one of Nvidia's most prominent flagship cards past years, I think if you were a gamer 5 years ago, you probably had a 970 in your computer. Like most people that were in the game had a 970.
Yeah,
Very, very good bang for your buck performance. A bit of a scandal with the 4 gigs VRAM and a half actually in it. But anyways, besides that, very high performing card for how much money it costs. I was seeing people talking about how because the 3070 is a 70 series card and the 970 and the comparing the launch prices, how it's not very fair. And I disagree. The 3000 series and RTX in general has things that the 9 series literally cannot do. RTX voice, ray tracing, all these things that Nvidia's put in for AI, they're just not possible on those older cards. When you look at a bit of a price hike, you gotta realize too, it's not just pure gaming performance that matters. Like you have the new NVENC encoder, which for us as streamers is phenomenal. Like it blows CPU streaming out of the water, and your performance is phenomenal. You just can't get that stuff on the older cards, and I know it's like $150 more MSRP than launch 970, but I think you definitely get $150 or more for benefits.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I don't see any problem with the pricing for the new 3070, 3080, 3090 because they perform to the extent where these prices are worth it. And I mean, you're saving money compared to buying like the 2080 and the 3070.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's just worth it. I mean, what is it? The 2080 Ti, if you were to get that, is like $1,200 alone.
yeah, it's fairly expensive, but I mean, I'm not saying if you're sitting on a 2080 Super or whatnot to buy a 3070, like that would be a bad upgrade. Even if you're at a 1070 or let's say you're at a 1080 Ti, that's still pretty good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't shoot for a 70 series card though, personally, because you're going from the best of the best in the 10 series to the mid tier in the 3 series, the 3000 series. That just doesn't make much sense to me. You'd be better off, especially if you had the money to get a 1080 Ti before. You're probably going to have the money still to grab a 3080, potentially even a 3090 if your wallet's that fat. So
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I'm rocking a 1080 right now. I don't have a Ti, but it's just a regular 1080, and it's good enough for me until I decide I want to build a whole new computer, which I would probably upgrade to a 3080. At that point, I'm gonna go 3070, but I'd probably go 3080.
I think it's more future proof. I think it's a better decision.
Yeah, let's hope they become more available next year. Is it
January.
still really hard to get the 3080, 3090 at this point?
Nvidia has stopped selling them until they can stock. They're gonna relaunch in January.
Okay, I got you.
You can still get partner models, but again, trying to find availability, it's needle and haystack, man.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're going to call it here for the guest podcast. We had a very good time. Again, make sure to check out Carl and his social medias. They'll be linked in the description of the video. And as well, he mentioned during that portion of the podcast for you audio listeners. Great podcast.
Yeah, so you can find us on Anchor, where we will be posting our audio episodes. Those also go to platforms such as Spotify and Breaker and Google Podcasts and such.
Pocket Cast
And then we also have the video version where you can see our beautiful faces and Carl's on YouTube. If you guys can give us a like and subscribe on the newest video. Also, we have the G.E.S.T podcast on Twitter. If you can give us a follow there, we really appreciate it. And we're posting news and content there daily. We still haven't got any podcast highlights on there, but we will work on doing that. So until next week, we will see you. Thank you so much for listening. And TommyNaysh, Gigabit Gaming out.
Love you.